This wasn't just an old shed, it was a blank canvas for a very special legacy. It took months of sweat and a whole lot of heart to build Molly's Firehouse, and today I'm showing you every single step. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Molly's Firehouse. I thought today I would share the transformation of a yellow shed to Molly's Firehouse and what we see today. In these photos, you could see what the shed looked like at the very beginning. It was a yellow color and was pretty worn from weather. Also, the space for the gardens was smaller than it is now, so we wanted to do a revision. This is the inside. You could see the inside of the doors and how old, again, there's that weathered look that it had. The doors were quite old. I think they'd probably only been painted once, and so we wanted to change that. So we got started in April of 2021. The first thing that we did was sand the building, and I tell you what, that took a very long time, probably a month, because I was doing it myself. And you could see there some of the building that I had sanded. And look at the flower bed. You can see that is quite small compared to what it is now. So this is the building. We started to power wash it to get all of those little flecks of paint off. And again, that was another big project because of the weather. The weather was a big deal back then. Lots of rain. Here's my husband power washing part of it. Thought I would quickly share today's progress. Today I sanded this wall, which took a while, and by the time I was finished, it started raining, so I didn't get to do the other side like I wanted to. I didn't get to do the back end or the other side. So we put the rock down and extended the flower beds out. That was the big project while we were waiting for the weather to clear up, which it never really did. So there we have it. And those are going to be the most challenging areas up in there. But there's the new bed. So super excited. So back to the building, you can see that these are some of the photos that we took before we started the painting process. Molly and Bowden both helped me. I chose this paint because I wanted it to look like a firehouse, and I can't lie, the first time that I put it on, I was very nervous because look, it looks almost orange, doesn't it? And I thought, did I make the right decision? Especially after buying all that paint, you could still see it. It looks a little orange, and I thought, well, I'll just give it a little bit of time and maybe it will look okay. So I got that painted, which took a while. We had to put a couple of coats on, and the more I started to paint it, the better it looked, and I was very grateful for that. Now the hardest parts to paint were the paints up high, and the building has a very high pitch to it, and so that took a little bit of time. We had to have some extra help for that. Here you could see more of the orange, and you could tell I was so short, I could only go so high. But look at the flower bed. You could see that it has gotten larger, and that in itself was another big job. So there we had some help again at the top parts, and finally the painting was completed. The next part of the job was the door, in which we'll get to here in a little bit. You can also tell we painted the door a gray color. And you can also see that the paint is starting to actually look like I wanted it to. The next part was the door, and that was one of the hardest parts. My husband and I are not used to dealing with wood and that sort of thing. So the first thing we had to do was brace up the door because we were going to put some panels on it. So we braced it up, and then I had to get ready to paint the panels. There are the panels before they're painted. Now, this was the most challenging job of the Firehouse project because, as I mentioned, we're not carpenters and we had a lot of measuring. There was a lot of math involved, which was, for me, very challenging. But we were able to finally figure it out. Here we had put some kilts on it before we painted it. There's the gray paint that we put on. And this is before we finished up the door. Again, this was a big project because we had to add these little strips, and as I mentioned, a lot of math was involved, and we had to put on see the little parts at the top that stick out. There's like a little 6-inch piece. We had to put those on to be able to put these attachments on there. See the little black, I'm sorry, I don't know what they're called. So the door was finally finished, and boy, were we ever glad that that project was over. The next project was the fake windows. I should say the faux windows. I got this one at the Robin's Nest in Nebraska. Molly helped me that day, and I sanded it down and painted it. I had to add a fake back to it to look like it was actually a window. So we hung it up on that side, and actually it really started to bring the firehouse to life, don't you think? So there it is, one side completed. So this is the door, this is the before, this is the after. What a difference. Then we purchased some windows for the other side of the building. They were just glass windows, big glass windows. They didn't have any pieces of wood going across, so we had to break the glass, and then we had to put some separators in there. So we painted those up, and let's see what that is, part of yep, that's part of the window. So had to fix those up. They were in quite rough shape. Painted the background for the windows, and then added the pieces. Again, this was a mathematical challenge for my husband and I. We are honestly not good at math. This was a very long project, but we did it. And we hung up the 2 windows, and I was just very, very happy. There's my dad helping me with that. Then we had a sign made for the front of the building, thanks to our friend Audie at Black Cat Creations. These are the strips for the sign to go around the sign. So I wanted them to be in both the color of the firehouse and white. This was another very time-consuming project. Had to miter those corners, put that together, and there you could see. Next step was to install the sign. Another big project, and we had some help with that as well. So first they put up the sign that you see there, and then we had to put the border around it. There's Robert putting on the color of the firehouse border first. And then the next step was to put on the white. there you have it. We had put the white on. The sign was finished. At first I thought, oh, that sign is bigger than I wanted, and I wanted to take it off and start over, but that idea got nixed, which I can completely understand because that was a huge project. We then had some pebbles, made a little entryway into the firehouse. The next project was to take this statue and repaint it to look like Molly. So there's Molly. And I will show some more pictures of that later. We had completed that project. And there it is. I was just very, very proud of how it looked, how the paint turned out. The little hydrant there that you see also got repainted. The back of it, we put a sign for our nonprofit at the time, a sign on it. And there we're preparing the ground for the hydrant, which was eventually repainted. Robert, what you working on today?
Door jam.
So explain what happened.
Well, the rain came down and this all got wet and rotted out, so I'm replacing this little piece right here and here. So.
And we've also had a lot of rain that goes into the shed, so you're fixing that as well today, right?
Right, and I put another piece over that, so hopefully we'll have good luck with this.
Right, getting all this ready before we get our gravel put down.
Yep. Okie doke.
Okie doke. Finally, the building was finished, almost finished, in time for Molly's birthday that year. The flower beds were not yet completed because we were waiting on the rock, but there it is. That's what it looked like. And we added some cement to the side. We picked up rocks in Russellville and had to make several trips. Again, this was just one of the trips that we made. Here is Molly. We had prepared the ground and ready to put the rocks on, which was also a big project, and I think it turned out rather nice, don't you? It's kind of one of those projects where you think, oh, this isn't going to take much time, and then it ends up taking more time than you thought it would. Do you know the feeling? The hydrant was finally installed onto the concrete and would be painted later, as well as the statue. This is how it looked after we had completed putting down all of the rocks. And honestly, I couldn't wait to start decorating. You can see I have a hummingbird feeder out. That was the first of many. We ended up having, I think 100 or so hummingbirds that season, and I added many, many more after this video was made. We added some lights for a little ambiance. There's the firehouse at night. There are the dogs. We added more flowers and did a lot of live streaming there from the firehouse. There's a hummingbird. You can see female hummingbird there. Lots of hummingbird activity that year. This was still in 2021. Ruby red-throated hummingbirds are the only hummingbirds that we get in our area, and we're very thankful that we do have them. And each year, did you know that hummingbirds know where they went the year before? So we have some of the ones that come back every year. What's also interesting about the hummingbirds is I can always tell the ones that have been here before because they're not scared of me whenever I go outside. They just continue their drinking, they don't fly off. Now, for the newbies that come, they'll all scatter when I go outside. But I believe I had 30 hummingbird feeders that year. There's the firehouse at night, which is one of my favorite times to go outside. I was just so proud of the firehouse. You can see I had hummingbird feeders hanging everywhere. Now, Molly and Bowden just love to be outside, and we spend a lot of time outside together. There's another look at the outside of it. A couple of things that are very special about this firehouse. One is that the International Space Station flew right over the firehouse since we have completed it. It's flown over twice, and to see it pass right over the firehouse has really been something that's truly amazing. The other thing is whenever we had the total eclipse, and I believe that was a couple of years ago maybe, I have a video of the total eclipse, the firehouse and the total eclipse, and that was just truly, truly amazing. We've also had several visitors to the firehouse who wanted to see it, some fans of Molly, as well as some media that came out to do a story after Molly had crossed over the Rainbow Bridge. So the gardens have expanded since that time. After Molly crossed over, I decided that I wanted to add more gardens, and so I made that a project. This was another year that we decorated and had more hummingbirds. And in this next photo here, you could see that's part of the hummingbird feeders that we had out. Again, this was Molly's party whenever we were able to decorate it for that occasion. Some of the sunsets around the firehouse have been simply beautiful. And this was one of the videos I captured in which the sky was just gorgeous. And the dogs, you could tell they're just having so much fun outside. This one is back to the summer. Sorry, the videos jump around a little bit, but these are the hummingbirds visiting us. And in that red bottle, don't worry, that is not red nectar. It was a red bottle. I love to decorate for the different holidays, so this was October 21, I want to say. Molly still looks pretty good in that video, so I believe that was October 21. Decorated it for fall. Firehouse was named after Molly, and I wanted to do something special and also wanted to have a place where we could live stream our fire safety tips and programs and that sort of thing, so it provided a lovely background for that. It was named in her honor, and after she crossed over the Rainbow Bridge in December of 2022, it became even more special to me as a place that Molly and I and Bowden used to hang out and spend a lot of time together. So it was a very special place. You can also see in this picture, we didn't have any of the gardens. See the wrought iron or the fence there? We didn't have any of our gardens there at the time. There's another picture of the firehouse in the fog. We spent a lot of time outside the firehouse during those really nice nights. There's Bowden playing. I wanted to move one of the rocks from Sparkle's clubhouse to the firehouse, so Robert hooked it up to chained it to the Molly mobile and moved that rock. Bowden, always the curious one. He's always got to check everything out, which is too funny. Actually, that was the Spot mobile. The Molly mobile was our little cart that we transformed to look like a fire truck, and we rode that around in the yard. That was a lot of fun. The dogs liked to ride in it with me. You can see the back of the truck, Molly's picture on there. Molly was the ambassador, the official ambassador for the IMAX movie Superpower dogs. And she also was one of the background actors in the film. So we used the truck to drive all over the country for her tour.
There you go.
And we traveled about 27,000 miles that year. It was a lot of fun. Molly got to walk the red carpet at the world premiere in Los Angeles, and we just traveled all over the place, including into Canada. It was a real special time for me in that I got to spend a lot of time with her. Here we have more hummingbirds. And believe it or not, at one time, all I wanted to do was feed the hummingbirds. I wasn't interested in the other birds. It just was not my focus at the time. And one year a robin laid an egg at the firehouse. Had some plants there. Put a camera on it. That's before cameras were like really a thing. And if you can believe that. So back to here's the before. Here's the after. Before. After.